Hey everyone, today's video I'm going to be talking about reviewing Halo Wars 2 in 2023. Is it worth picking up Halo Wars 2 in 2023 or even playing it for the first time in 2023? I'll give you the short answer right now and then I will elaborate, much like how I did in my Halo Wars 1 review video, which I'll post a link in the description for you to check out. Simply, yes, I think you should check out Halo Wars 2 in 2023, but there are some caveats to the game you really should be aware of before you dive in, because there are a lot of annoyances with this game that are really fixable, but however, 343 will not fix them, so it kind of detracts from the experience. But you can see the potential here, and it is a very fun game to play. So let's dive into why that is. So let's start here with the campaign and then kind of make our way through the feature set of Halo Wars 2. It released in early 2017, and Halo Wars 2 brought us a brand new story. This takes place technically after Halo 5 and is a primer to Halo Infinite. You don't need to play this game to understand Halo Infinite's story, but I think it makes much more impact to some of the characters you see in Halo Infinite. Halo Wars 2 introduced us the Banish and the Terror known as Atriox, as well as some of his beginnings and his motives. The Spirit of Fire, the same ship and crew that we saw in Halo Wars 1, it continues its journey in this game with Cutter, Anders, Jerome, Douglas, and Alice, all reprising their roles, quote-unquote. I think a lot of them either have new voice actors or new characters that kind of portray them. You can see their actual visual appearance for almost all these characters has changed pretty noticeably. Captain Cutter and Anders look much different, and we even see some of the Spartans in Red Team take their helmets off. What I love about the opening of Halo Wars 2, not only just that the blur cutscenes return in this game, but it starts out with a nod to the first game, which I think was so cool. Gives you goosebumps if you finish Halo Wars 1, you play through the FPS saga of Halo, you stop at Halo 5, and then you fire up Halo Wars 2, it's going to hit you right in the feels. We talk about Serena on how she's more or less taking care of herself as she's going through rampancy, and you even see Sergeant Forge's cryopod there. Spoilers, I guess. It's just so cool, the opening of Halo Wars 2. The first hour of the game is, I think, simply incredible. Atriox, Serena, Forge, the location that the game takes place is the Ark, the Banished themselves, talking about Master Chief. I mean, all of it is really, really awesome for the first hour of Halo Wars 2. It really was a treat to play for fans of the first game and the entire Halo series. I think the campaign kind of falls flat towards the middle, and it picks up a little bit towards the end, only really to end on a cliffhanger that's still unanswered 6 years later. So is Halo Wars 2, does it have a bad campaign? No, I don't think so, but it's not a grand slam type of campaign that I would classify Halo Wars 1 as, and I think a lot of people may even disagree with my opinion on Halo Wars 1 campaign, but that's a discussion for my Halo Wars 1 review video. So I think the moment-to-moment combat when you're controlling your units in Halo Wars 2 is actually more fun than Halo Wars 1. It's much more colorful, vibrant. There's more different types of units where they try to be a little bit more, I think, diverse in what's offered. For the introduction of different turret types was really cool in Halo Wars 2, as well as the introduction of siege units, as well as other sorts of counters. Like, for example, Detect and Cloak is a new thing in Halo Wars 2 that was not present in the first game. So I think the moment-to-moment combat is actually better, especially with leaders and leader powers and hero units, I should say. But I honestly think that Halo Wars 1 is a more fun game to play overall. I think Halo Wars 1 still is the better game. It feels more like Halo. It looks and sounds more like Halo. Halo Wars 2, not to say that it doesn't do any of those things, but I just don't think it does it as well. Halo Wars 2 originally had a controversy with its art style. Some people thought it looked a little bit too cartoony or out of style for what made Halo, Halo. I think the multiplayer offering for Halo Wars 2 is a ton of fun, as you can see from the channel. I have like 850 Halo Wars 2 multiplayer videos, so I obviously love the multiplayer in this game. It is crossplay between Xbox, the Series X, S and PC. So no matter where you're playing Halo Wars 2, you can easily join in with your friends, which is awesome. And it's a Xbox Play Anywhere title. So that means if you buy it on Xbox, you automatically get it for free on PC, which I think is pretty cool. And towards the end, when you get all of the DLC, or if you pick up the complete edition of Halo Wars 2, there's actually shockingly quite a good bit of content here in this game. The Season Pass added a ton of new leaders, and by the time you get the complete edition of the game, there are 16 leaders, 8 for Banished and 8 for UNSC. And there are technically 3 campaigns. You have your main campaign, the expansion Awakening the Nightmare, where you play as the Banished against the Flood, and then finally Operation Spearbreaker was a little 2 campaign mission mini story featuring an ODST squad. And actually a lot of people think from the lore perspective, that's actually the best campaign. And I really enjoyed that as well. I thought that was really cool. So there's a lot of content with just campaigns. There are a lot of multiplayer leaders, and there's some new game modes added as well. Awakening the Nightmare gave us Terminus Firefight, which I thought was pretty cool. And of course, there's your standard multiplayer modes and your Blitz game mode as well. So let's go ahead and spend, I guess, the rest of this video talking about the negatives, or really the things you should be aware of when you play Halo Wars 2, if you haven't picked it up yet. And, I think Halo Wars 2 suffers quite a lot from the, I don't know if lackluster leadership is a good way to describe 343 currently, but I think if you're a Halo fan, you kind of understand the dynamic of how 343 is these days, with really mixed results with all of their Halo releases. Firstly, Halo Wars 2 had some DLC controversy with the Season Pass at the time. They had announced Awakening the Nightmare before they had finished even completing the Season Pass, and then they had noted that Awakening the Nightmare would not be part of the Season Pass, and it was an additional purchase, leading to a lot of confusion and anger from some people in the community. And, you can get the complete edition, which includes everything. But just if you want to pick this up a la carte individually, you're going to have to buy, if you don't go for the complete edition, you'll have to buy the Season Pass and Awakening of the Nightmare to get all the content in the game. There's also a lack of new content in the game besides what I described earlier. So yeah, it may sound great that towards the end of you get all the content, 3 campaigns, Terminus Firefight, tons of leaders, that sort of stuff. But what was really head-scratching move is there was really no new maps added to the game at all for any of the game modes. Terminus Firefight, while it's pretty awesome, it's just one map that you play over and over and over again. Same with Blitz, which is a head-scratching move that only has one map. They added a variant where you can play it at nighttime. Why couldn't we get more maps in multiplayer? We only got 2, to my knowledge. It's Mirage and is it Fishers are the 2 maps that we got added as DLC maps in the game. There might be a third one. But, I mean, it's nothing like what we saw in Halo Wars 1, where we got a ton of new maps post-launch. Also, Halo Wars 2, you might take this as a positive or a negative. I take it as a negative. The maps are 2v2 or 3v3. Some maps even support 1s, 2s, and 3s, meaning the map size actually changes, even if you're playing on the same map based on your team size. And I thought that was kind of an inefficient way to diversify the map pool. You're playing on the same maps over and over again instead of making unique maps based on the team size. Also, I think a lot of people were upset that the Blitz game mode seemed to be pay to win, and there wasn't really a whole lot of support for that game mode. And I really actually think that Blitz is really fun. However, I think some people could just buy a bunch of cards and level them up, and then they would kind of just decimate you on the playing field. There are some game modes that levels out the power of your cards. So if someone has a bunch of cards and you don't, it kind of evens it out a little bit. But I understand the feedback from the community with the Blitz game mode. Halo Wars 2 has a lot of really strange and bizarre performance issues. Some of them will just randomly come up and impact the game, and other ones will show up and vanish with time. And since 343 no longer supports the game, these are kind of just inexplicable. Right now, we're having a foliage bug issue where the foliage will just cover the entire map. You can't even see your own units. It's like as if they're in really thick grass, and you have to turn that off, which makes the game look a little bit more uglier compared to previously when this bug just started coming up. But that's probably the most recent issue. There's other times where Microsoft will update something on Windows and that'll break something in Halo Wars 2, or 343 will update the servers for Halo Wars 2 and it ends up crashing it for a day or something. And 343 is not very communicative in regards to Halo Wars 2. 343, for some reason, they hate this game. Even though that their name is on this, I know that they didn't technically develop Halo Wars 2, but they hate this game. They hate referencing this game. If you reach out to them after the game's been down for a day, they'll block you on Twitter. It's just really weird on how 343 kind of looks at this game. They removed any instance of this game from Halo Waypoint, by the way. If you go on Halo Waypoint, you cannot find any reference to Halo Wars 2. So it's just really strange on why they're acting this way with this game. This game is not on Steam, which I think that in a time when Microsoft was actually really embracing Steam, even Halo Wars 1 made its way to Steam. For Halo Wars 2 to be absent from that platform is really bizarre, and I think that would really actually help the game. So what's next for Halo Wars 2 at this point? To be honest, I actually don't think that we're going to see a whole lot of traction, but I do have hope. And the hope that I have for this game actually comes from Age of Empires, because Age of Empires was more or less in the kind of boat that Halo Wars 2 was in about 10 or 15 years ago. And a modding team that was so passionate with Age of Empires 2 that Microsoft actually ended up adopting this mod, and it ended up kicking in a new era that brings us to Age of Empires today, which I would say is the golden era of Age of Empires. All of the games have been remastered. There's a fourth game in Age of Empires, and now they're going back and remastering Age of Mythology. So long story short is Age of Mythology is thriving because of modders and the work that they've done. And I think that that can happen with Halo Wars 2. There is a modding community for Halo Wars 2 that adds new things like playing as the Flood, and there's even modders that have made an unofficial balance patch to the game that fixes a lot of the issues that players have with the balancing in this game. But I actually would wonder, would 343 allow the Age of Empires team to begin updating Halo Wars 2 and adding new features or bug fixes to this game, much like they have with the older Age games? And I think that that is a brilliant solution to this problem, where 343 doesn't have the resources to fix this game. But nonetheless, I could go on and on, make a whole individual video about this. And I hope one day that that happens. For now, this story remains unanswered with its cliffhanger ending. It was actually not touched up on in Halo Infinite at all, and it hasn't been touched upon in books or extended media either. So that partially gives me a little bit of hope that we might see a third game in the series. And the third game in the series was pitched originally right after the release of Halo Wars 2. So I wouldn't say no, but I would say not right now for a next Halo Wars game. And finally, I would wrap this up by saying we didn't really even need a Halo Wars 2, to be perfectly honest with you. Halo Wars 1, I think, ended perfectly, and it really wasn't something that I think a lot of people were demanding happened after the end of the first game. But nonetheless, it happened, and I'm so glad that we have a Halo Wars 2, and I hope that that's the case for a Halo Wars 3. I hope someday we get a Halo Wars 3, and we can continue the saga with the Spirit of Fire. So there you have it. How is Halo Wars 2 in 2023? It's pretty great, but there are some caveats. And I'd love to know your thoughts on Halo Wars 2 in the comments down below. Do you think it's something people should pick up in 2023, or do you think they should stay away due to the bug fixes and the just inexplicable hate that this game has from its own creators? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. Well, that's going to do it for me. If this is your first time here on the channel, well, we love Halo Wars and Age of Empires, so if you like RTS games, you found yourself in the right place, and we stream on a regular basis on our Twitch page. So if you want to see us live, check it out, twitch.tv/TeamRespawnTV. All right, that's going to do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching, everybody, and I'll see you, James.